My advice is really to get on a path early. So as cool as everything's been that I've gone from carpentry and I know so many aspects of construction because I've done them, and gone to school for them. But I think getting on a solid path early, having a good mentor, a good apprenticeship, and there's so many things. Like if you want to be a lifelong learner, there's you're in mechanically you're in the right field because technology is always changing. So equipment's always changing. So being a lifelong learner, I think falling into the mechanical and the HVAC and the plumbing side of things really worked out for me. But I think the earlier you can get on a path, get a mentor, work for a company that has strong leadership is key. The sooner you can do that, the better.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the MIFA podcast. My name is Jonathan Hughes, and that was our guest on the show today, Matthew Belcher. And I'm just going to tell you up front, this is, honestly, one of the best shows we've ever done. I didn't realize it until I was watching it again to edit it, and it's so good, and here's why. This show is for students who want to go to college, and also for students who want to enter the workforce right away. It's for someone who is interested in community college and also someone who's interested in a 4-year private college. It's also for someone who's interested in being a teacher, an apprentice, a blue-collar entrepreneur, all on one show, all in one guest. I say this in the show, my guest has done so much and we talk about so many things that I had a hard time sort of deciding what the focus of the show should be until he hit the nail right in the head. And that is lifetime learning. How to adapt, how to constantly learn and sharpen your skills and pivot to new opportunities when the need arises. Now, you don't do all of that. Carpentry, HVAC, plumbing, construction, teaching, owning your own business without gaining a lot of wisdom, and you're going to get to hear a lot of it. Without further delay, let's start the show.
So my name is Matt Belcher. I live in Bridgewater. I have a HVAC, plumbing and HVAC company that we've been running for just over 6 years now.
And that's kind of a leading question that I asked you, right? Because part of the reason that we wanted to have you on is, well, there's two reasons. First one is we like to highlight different career pathways and things like that. But the second is you've done a lot throughout your career through now, right? So you've sort of worn a lot of hats, and I had a hard time kind of isolating just one aspect of your career and your education because, you, like I said, it really encompasses a lot to focus on. So, we met a couple of weeks ago now and talked sort of. Can you give folks listening just a kind of high level overview of what you did after you left high school, really?
Yeah, I guess like just like a lot of kids coming out of high school, you don't know what direction you want to go in, right? I wanted to go to college, wasn't really working for me, but I kept going nights. Fell into construction. My family had always been in construction, so I was a carpenter for good about 9 years. Recession hit, changed careers again. You just got to keep moving, try to get work. Fell into plumbing and heating the whole time. Still going to college, chipping away nights. Residential to commercial, and it just I've been staying in construction, but just kind of keep shifting, and then eventually starting my own company.
So let's go back to your college experience.
Yeah, I guess I had to go to a community college. It was just the way things worked out for me. But I realized real quick that just going full time wasn't going to work for me. But I also knew that I needed something to try to further myself because I knew maybe I'd change how I wanted to be in construction later on. I went to the community college. We chipped away at classes.
And what was your I'm sorry, what was your thought that you wanted to like what degree did you want to earn? What field did you want to go into? Yeah.
So yeah, so I just did the liberal arts because, like I said, I didn't know. I didn't really have at that time. I didn't have a whole lot of information. I mean, like the guidance counselors in school didn't really prep you for what kind of jobs were in construction other than manual labor. Um, and so I was just like, I knew at some point, what if I get hurt, or because it happens, or just anything. But I just knew that in order for me to leave options on the table, I had to keep going and at least chip away. And I'd rather, if I decided, hey, listen, I really want to do this, I didn't want to be looking at like, all right, being older and trying to cram in a full career, yeah, a full call, working and college, which plenty of people do. Um, but chipping away with the community college really helped. And then when that whole the whole recession there, 2007, 8, 9 hit, I was faced with with looking at what am I going to do? So that's when I actually found out that I didn't even know really that they had all these construction related degrees. So that's how I ended up at Wentworth, going nights, which was incredible. Can't say enough good things about that program. Um,
So yeah,
but
tell me about that. So did you finish the 2-year community college program or no?
so I didn't. I was about halfway through it, and we it's yeah, I was about halfway through it, I'd say, and then when I went to Wentworth, even at that point, it was they took so many of the credits. They took so many of the credits, and more than I expected them to. So it was really a huge help financially. You know,
And you were working construction after that, and then you
working
found
construction.
out about the program at Wentworth?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I was looking at because we ended up getting laid off is what happened. The company I was working for, um, they we weren't a construction company. We were just a construction division. So they eliminated it when there was no construction jobs, right? So I was like, all right, well, what's my next move? Um, and that's when I started searching, and I found out that Wentworth actually had a whole night program for this professional studies in so went construction management. But then coming to the end of that, things still hadn't rebounded yet. So I ended up stopping at the 2 year degree with intent to get my bachelor's, but we ended up stopping at the 2 year. There just weren't any jobs at the time. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about that program. It was really good.
Yeah,
Good
what was the
teachers.
program like? Tell me about it.
So it was just it's like anytime you go to night school, it's the professionals during the you have some day teachers and stuff like that, but you have the people who work in the field, during the day. So they're really they're not removed in it's not like, oh, we used to do that 20 years ago and now I teach. It's like these guys are there, you know they left their day job and whatever they were doing, project management, construction management, engineering, whatever it is they were doing, and then come and teach you. They teach you the book stuff, part of the curriculum, but then they have their real world experience. So it was really good.
And what is construction management?
So I mean, it's similar to project management, right? The construction management degree was really focused on kind of being like site supervising. So there were two programs. You had project management, construction project management, and then you just had construction management, and the two classes overlapped. So I was in a lot of the same classes with the project management guys, but it seemed to be more or field oriented. You know,
And, and
so
and what do you remember from the process of like getting your credits over, and did you file financial aid forms and paying for college and all that stuff? What was that
yeah.
process like?
So that process was, I mean, it was fairly easy. The it was really just a matter of getting my transcript from the community college, bring it over, and they told me what they accepted and didn't, and they actually accepted almost all of it. So that was great. And then the financial aid, already being in my, mid to late 20s, and there was no financial aid, right? So you're paying out of pocket, right? But it still wasn't. I mean, it was reasonable, but that was still over 10 years ago. So
So let me see if I have the timeline straight in my head.
yeah,
So high school, out of high school, went to community college, studied liberal arts, went to work in construction, worked at construction, and then was it during the sort of 2008, 2009 Great Recession that you went back to Wentworth?
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And now I understand though that you were in carpentry.
So that was that whole construction period from high school till that whole recession. So, like I said, that was 7, 8 years somewhere in there. So 7, 8 years somewhere in there. But and what we did was I worked for a convenience store chain, so we were doing commercial build outs and remodels and sometimes maintenance. So you had to wear all the hats. There is where I took over. I took over doing millwork and finish work for it was commercial stuff, but I took over the carpenter shop, and then that sparked an interest to really get into um, some higher end stuff, and I had access to the shop, so it was great. And with searching for courses, that's where, and if you're segueing into this, that's what I is the North Bennett Street School I ended up finding.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I was gonna get to
Yeah,
that because we did a
yeah,
show at North Bennett Street, and I know you went to North.
yeah.
So when was that in the
So
in the
that was like just before that whole I got laid off and recession. So that was just before Wentworth. Um, and I used to use my vacation time to take workshops. I mean, they at the time they did have a good weekend one. I took that, but after that, if they had them during the week, I took I used my vacation and take a week and go do it.
I mean, that's pretty dedicated using your vacation time to work essentially or to learn how to
Yeah,
do things. So what was it that drew you to that? What were you trying to learn that you could do differently or better in your job before that happened?
so I mean, I guess well, when you're in the commercial world, you got a whole bunch of different levels and of finish that they require, and most of them aren't that high, depending on what you're doing. But we're working for a convenience store, so the level wasn't that high. But I've always had that desire to do better, to learn more techniques. And when I took a tour of that of the school, and I was like, oh, I would love to go here, but there's no way I could make a full time program work. So I was so pumped when they had the workshops, and it was just really just it was the next step to elevate, to really get myself, especially not working in that industry. So I guess if I had an apprenticeship with like a higher end millwork company or something like that, I mean, um, maybe it wouldn't have been as necessary, but um, I don't know. I like getting it from the source. I like getting the fundamentals. I like not picking up other people's bad habits. It's a lot of that. Especially apprenticeships are great, but your apprenticeship's only as good as the guy you're working under, right? So, that's what kind of drove me to jump on those courses and those workshops.
Well, we're going to talk about apprenticeships too because you were in an apprenticeship as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
But before I get to that, I wanted to ask you because you also see, I'm telling you, it checks a lot of boxes here. So,
Yeah.
because you were also teaching,
Yes. Yeah. Comes full circle, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So I guess it's so in me taking all my courses for the trades and like you said the apprenticeship when I got into plumbing, um, I was taking a course at the Petersen School, which is where I did a lot of my HVAC training there. But I was taking a refrigeration course over there, and in me talking with one of the instructors, he had mentioned that they were looking for an oil teacher, which is I worked for an oil company. And I was like, yeah, I guess I don't know. I never really thought much about teaching, and we were taking the course over the summer, and then the summer ended, and they were like, okay, so you're starting. What do you mean? I am. Oh, okay. I guess I am. And it was great. Actually, I loved it. I did it for 9 years teaching part time
Wow.
nights. Yeah, just a couple nights a week, and it was awesome. Yeah, it was a great experience. I'd still be doing it if I wasn't running my own company. So I was there. So
And so, if I can again, just I want to go back to the timeline that I have in my head and make sure I have this. So,
mhm.
so high school, um, community college,
Mhm.
construction, then recession hits, back to Wentworth, and
Mhm.
then and I say back to Wentworth and back to school
Yeah,
at Wentworth.
right.
When did HVAC and plumbing come into it then?
So that came out. So that came in right after. So like when that whole recession hit and I got laid off and I went back to Wentworth, I couldn't find a job in construction, and I was hoping that even me just being me being enrolled in the program would get me somewhere. And it just at that time it didn't. So that's when I went to go work for my buddy was working for an oil company, and he was like, I was like, well, I do construction, so learning another aspect of it wouldn't be bad. Not thinking I was ever going to stay, right? And so I was going to Wentworth at night while I was working for the oil company, and then once I graduated, I just kept going. It just never, I don't think I've ever stopped going to school since I graduated high school, right? There's always either a training or a certificate or, a license or something that we keep moving forward with. So, but yeah, that's,
And how difficult was it to learn a new trade basically at that point? Like what were some of the big differences between construction and HVAC and plumbing?
so I guess, it wasn't, I won't say it was really difficult. I mean, you already have the knowledge of working with tools, which is a huge help. You know how now doing construction, you know how things are built, which really helps. So it was really just the mechanical side. Um, you know, so I mean, it's not like coming in from construction. It's not like you're coming in as a 18-year-old kid from high school who doesn't know what end of the hammer to use. Um, so that side of it's good, but it still is it is a whole nother aspect. Like it's not even remotely the same, you know, knowledge wise. So
And is this when you were an apprentice then?
yeah. So when I was apprentice, yeah. So it took. I mean, it takes a while. It takes a while, even going to school and being an apprentice. So
And what is involved in being an apprentice? You said going to school is part of it, or how long did that take? Were there costs associated? What was that whole process of being an
yeah,
apprentice like? Yeah.
yeah. So the apprenticeship was 5 years
Wow.
for the plumbing.
That's longer than I
So
expected for some reason. I didn't know how long I expected, but 5 years is yeah.
yeah, it was 5 years and 5 years of school, and I paid for it all out of pocket. And you think I'd remember that, but I don't remember how much it was. I just remember it being reasonable. It was like $1,400 a year or something like that. It wasn't anything ridiculous. Although the company I worked for did offer to pay for it,
Mm.
but then you had to sign a contract to stay working with them for I don't know, like 3 years after you got your license. And although I did stay with them, I just didn't want to be held down to it, so paid for it myself. I did have them pay for other trainings, other HVAC trainings and stuff like that. Took advantage of that, but
Where were the
yeah.
classes?
So all of my HVAC stuff I took at the Petersen School, which is like I said, how I ended up teaching there. Um, but the plumbing was actually another great. I could have taken the plumbing at the Peterson School. They offered it there too, but I was already enrolled in another school, which was Master's Plumbing and Gas School. I think he's all online now. At the time, he had a physical location, but um, that was it's actually a lot of guys like the online platform now. I'm just an in class kind of guy, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, so and that was 5 years of apprenticeships, and then you started teaching there. Had taught for 9 years. Was that beginning after your apprenticeship or after your beginning there?
So it was kind of halfway through. So at one point in time, I was going to school 2 nights a week for plumbing, teaching oil burners 2 nights a week. Luckily, this was all before I had kids. So, um, but yeah, so there was a few semesters where it was a little rough. This was all after graduating, so at least college wasn't in the mix anymore. But yeah, so I was teaching the oil burners and then going to school for to finish up my plumbing schooling hours.
And then, finally, kind of like the last major topic that we're going to discuss that you again sort of exemplify is entrepreneurship, right? Because you started, as you
Yep.
mentioned before, you started your own business. So, and I think that's something that a lot of people would like to do, but it's scary to do that. So, if to the extent that you want to, can you tell me how
Yeah.
you made that decision to start your own business, and what did you learn from doing that, and
Yeah.
what do you need to do to be successful in that?
So, I mean, I guess first of all, you'd have to define what success is, right? If you want to say what you do, because success is different for everybody, even in entrepreneurship, right? So, is success to be doing 20, $30 million a year, or is success to, make sure you're home for all your kids' sporting events and putting food on the table and a little something in retirement and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it all you kind of need to define success first of all, and then the other side of that is I mean you just got to do it if you think that's something that's for you. I mean, um, I kind of go. I think I was always going to do it, right? I was already set up to do it. I kind of came unexpectedly. I departed. I departed from the company I was working for, and on my way, it was on a Friday, and on my way home, um, I got three calls. Before I even pulled back into my driveway, I got three calls for job offers from other companies that had already heard word that I wasn't working there anymore, and I was like, you know what? I guess I wouldn't recommend anyone do it this way, but I was like, I guess this is it because what's the worst that happens? I go back, I do what everybody else does every day. I go back. I mean, there's no there's no shortage of jobs for guys who are willing to work and know what they're doing. Um, so I think that's one of the things. If I could give any advice, if someone's afraid to do it, um, that the worst case scenario, you go back to doing what you're already doing, right? But I don't necessarily recommend anyone do it that way, you know. Um, but
And how long have you been doing this at your own company?
so 6 years.
Wow.
We just hit 6 years this month. So we got over that 5 year hump. Things are starting to move in the right direction. It's it's been interesting, the highs and lows, and everything in between.
I mean, it seems like as somebody who I don't think I would ever do it myself because I just don't think I
Mm.
have that in me.
Right.
Just that ultimately maybe the desire, but it seems exciting to sort of take that leap. Was it?
I guess it was. I mean, it was exciting, but I don't know. I think you have to be a certain kind of person, and not even just in the business sense and the go getter. I think it's certain. You have to. I'm trying to think of how to put this. It's you certain things can't matter. And I would say if you don't want to get super stressed out, and because you're gonna anyways, but if you don't want to get burnt out or stressed out or even fail, right, for that matter, is that I don't see. I think you gotta stop seeing. You start seeing money as just numbers on paper, right? So you actually start to learn. You start to see money. That's one of the biggest changes. You start to see money differently. It doesn't. You see your money the same, like stuff in my money.
Sure.
My money is still the same,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
business money looks totally different, and you can't. I think that's got to be the last reason why you do it. Yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
think money can't be. I mean, it's definitely shows you it's a metric, right? So money is a metric.
Right.
It's going to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Um, but if you're in it solely for the money, I don't think you're going to be in there. You're going to be in it long because money comes and goes. So,
Right.
when things get hard, it's, yeah, I got to stop and sit there and go, why am I doing this? You know,
Mm.
and that reason better be bigger than money because the money's not there. So,
Mm.
um, I think that's some of the advice I would give guys. If you're going into it for the money, um, there's plenty of ways to make money. There's plenty of ways to make more money. There's plenty of ways to make money. I don't think I would go into business for myself if money was the driving force.
Right. So, what is the driving force then for you?
Um, I think it's almost like why do people climb mountains, right? Why do people do anything that where they're not getting money back in return, right? Why do you do anything that's hard? Um, and I think it's one is to challenge myself because I do get bored. You know, well, see, whereas I keep changing, not changing stuff, but where I keep taking classes and stuff like that, you get bored at some point. So there's definitely, no matter how like mundane things will become in the business, there's always something that's going to challenge you or keep you on your toes, or something will come out of left field and you have to react to it. So there's the challenge. There's the challenge aspect. Um, it definitely always I always have to learn something new all the time.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
getting that impression. Like
yeah,
I was saying before that I had a hard time sort of isolating the main theme because you've done so much of this. But
yeah,
and then I came to it. Well, it's that you are a sort of lifetime learner, right? That you do
yeah.
sort of get bored and want to try something else. So, in looking at it in that light, you know, what was hard about that? And I mean, I think it was that's who you are. So I was going to ask what was right for you, but it's
Yeah,
clear. So,
yeah.
I guess what I would say is if there's anybody listening here and they're like you, and that what would your advice be to them in general?
My advice is really to get on a path early. So as cool as everything's been that I've gone from carpentry and and I know so many aspects of construction because I've done them, and gone to school for them. But um, I think getting on a solid path early, having a good mentor, a good apprenticeship, um, and there's so many things like if you want to be a lifelong learner, there's I mean mechanically you're in the right field because um, technology is always changing. So equipment's always changing. So being a lifelong learner, I think falling into the mechanical and the HVAC and the plumbing side of things really worked out for me. But I think the earlier you can get on a path, get a mentor, work for a company that has strong leadership, um, is key. The sooner you can do that, the better. I who knows how much farther along I'd be if those things happened earlier for me. But again, the path I took was kind of cool too. So um, yeah,
And you mentioned your kids
yeah.
earlier. So, how old are your kids, and do they seem like they might be similar to you in that way?
So yeah, I mean, like anyone who has kids, right? They're all different. But yeah, so I got three boys, which would be good if they want to work. But um, we got my oldest is 10, and then they go 7, and my youngest is 5. And my middle guy, he's got an engineer kind of mind, and he's the I call him the foreman because anytime I do something around the house, he wants to know why. But why did I stop? Why did I take a drink? What do you? He's like he's always right there. What are we doing? Okay, let's keep going, Dad. My oldest has really no interest in working with his hands, but I was just sitting at the table one night with a set of plans out, and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, there's more to what I do than just swinging wrenches, right?" He's like, "Well, no, I didn't." And so I sat down and explained to him like all the other jobs, like nobody did for me, right? All the other jobs, whether it's CAD or it's estimating or it's sales, and he started going through that whole thing with him, like all these jobs that are there, and he's like, "Oh." Well, that sounds pretty cool. I'm like, all right, that's good. Yeah,
And you mentioned this before too. I think times have changed a little bit where if you went to your counselor, hopefully they would have a little bit more for you
yeah.
regarding trades and construction and things like that. Um, I don't know. Is that your sense from like? There's a lot, from what I can tell, a lot of renewed focus on some of the things that you did and some of the things that you studied. Is that something that you see as well?
Yeah, I mean, I do see that, and I do think it's great. I mean, there's enough studies to show that we're short on skilled labor, and trades and all that. This is a controversial topic when I talk to people about it, but one of the things I do see a lot is I see people who have never been in the trades pushing their kids into trades,
Mm.
and they're kind of like glorifying it, like,
Hmm.
oh, this is where you make all the money, and
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
blue collar is the new millionaires, and there is some truth to that, but I mean, I think you got to give some reality to it. Is that um, it's dirty. It's dirty work. It's not in HVAC. If I'm in somebody's house, it's because they don't have AC.
Mm.
If I'm in there in the winter, they don't have heat.
Mm.
If I'm in there doing plumbing, they don't have running water. It's all um, it's not I mean, I love it. I wouldn't do it any other way. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't tell someone not to do it. But I think there's a lot of people not in the trades trying to convince people to go into the trades versus I think what you really need is the voice of the guys in the trades telling you, hey, this is what it is. Choose your heart,
Hmm.
right? Um, there's a million different jobs you can do in the trades. Pick one you like, or pick one you don't hate. How about that? um, pick one that you wake up in the morning and you go to work, and you don't dread the ride in
Yeah.
you know. Um, so again, I would definitely encourage guys to get into it, or women, girls, women, everybody to get into, we have that shortage. It's true, but we need to show the reality of, the job hazards and, that you know what you're actually getting into. I feel like that was very clear to me, like, even though we didn't have counselors telling you that, but my family was in construction.
Mm.
I think all, the good, bad, and the ugly was made very clear early on, and it was just, well, it's that or sit in an office all day, um, you know. And like I said, you choose,
Yep.
you make an informed decision.
So is before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to say that you haven't said?
Oh, Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. When I get teaching, you get up on these. So, you have the opportunity to try to shape the industry when you teach. And any guys who've taken a class from me know that I'll get up on my soapbox and talk about a million things about uh, my opinions and the way things should be and the standard of the way the industry should be. But um, so yeah, I could talk to you I could go on for hours.
Okay. Well, if you want to do that, we can do that another time.
Yeah, sounds great.
This is great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Good. So big thank you to Matthew Belcher. I certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else hearing this did too. And if you liked what you heard in the show today and you want to hear more from us on planning, saving, and paying for college and career readiness, well, you can follow the show, and you can do that wherever you're watching or listening to us now. And please remember to leave us a good review. It helps us to keep doing what we're doing. I'd like to thank our producer, Sean Connolly. I'd like to thank Lauren Dans, Lisa Rooney, AJ Yee, Meredith Clement, and Christina Davidson for their assistance in posting the show. Once again, my name is Jonathan Hughes, and this has been the MIFA Podcast. Thank you.